We have yet to receive a copy of the petition that was filed this morning. However, I think these cases have been resolved unanimously by the Commission on Election on the division level, as well as the Commission on Election on bank. And these cases have been dismissed, and the decision was unanimous. I appeal to those who keep on pursuing this divisiveness. The people have spoken.
We begin tonight with a petition to cancel the candidacy of Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for president. Petitioners brought the fight to the Supreme Court after the petition was denied by Comelec at its division and on-bank level. Attorney Vic Rodriguez of the Marcos camp says they have yet to receive a copy of the petition and pleaded with petitioners to accept the results of the elections. Time for the day's biggest headlines. I'm Gretchen Ho. You're watching The Big Story. Now, aside from canceling the certificate of candidacy of presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., petitioners are also asking the Supreme Court for a temporary restraining order to stop the canvassing of votes. But the Marcos camp believes that petitioners should respect the Comelec's decision as well as the vote of the Filipino people. Marlene Alcaide with The Big Story.
The fight against the candidacy of presumptive President-elect Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has now reached the country's highest court. After being rejected at the Commission on Elections, petitioners led by Counsel Sara Duterte went to the Supreme Court to ask it to cancel and declare void Marcos Jr.'s certificate of candidacy for president.
Ang posisyon namin ay kung totoo yung dalawang statement dahil convicted siya, malinaw na fact yun, hindi na pwedeng i-deny yun. At dahil sa conviction niya sa ilalim ng RTC at in-affirm ng Court of Appeals, automatic yung perpetual disqualification. At nung sinabi niya na hindi siya perpetually disqualified, hindi totoo yun.
Petitioners also want the SC to issue a temporary restraining order to enjoin both chambers of Congress from canvassing the votes pending the petition's resolution. While Marcos Jr. presumed majority win might be historical, for petitioners, elections is not just a numbers game. They question his eligibility to run given that he was not truthful in his COC.
Kapag yung isang kandidato ay hindi eligible, kahit na makuha pa niya pinakamataas na boto, hindi pa rin siya dapat tumakbo kasi ang epekto ng cancellation ng COC ay hindi siya naging kandidato ever.
Marcos Jr.'s camp, however, said that all of these cases have already been resolved and dismissed at the Comelec. Attorney Vic Rodriguez added that the people have spoken based on the election result. He appealed to those behind the petition to respect the will of the people and just help the next administration.
I appeal to you, instead of pushing for your agenda of animosity, tulungan niyo lang na humuna kami na pagtuunan at gamitin natin ang ating limitadong oras araw-araw.
Petitioners are leaving this up to the Supreme Court, hoping that the High Court will act on their petition immediately. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
Can the Supreme Court still cancel the candidacy of a candidate after the elections? That big question and more with Attorney Domingo CAYOSA, former president of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. Attorney CAYOSA, welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Gretchen, and magandang gabi sa nanonood at nakikinig sa inyo.
Good evening, Attorney. All right, votes have been cast now. Is it still possible for the Supreme Court to cancel the candidacy of a candidate at this point?
Yes, it is still possible. It is within the power of the Supreme Court to review decisions of lower bodies, including the Comelec.
Okay, with that said, do they need to have this resolved prior to the oath-taking? Ano po ba yung mga timelines natin?
Well, under the Constitution, the Supreme Court is given 2 years from the submission of the last pleading to decide a case, which is an awfully long period of time. However, this is about the qualification of a high-ranking or the highest-ranking political leader of the country. So it would be much better if the Supreme Court can act on the petition with dispatch much earlier, hopefully before the proclamation or the canvassing and the proclamation by Congress.
Now, should this petition be successful, who exactly will replace President-elect Marcos?
The President-elect Vice President will act as President temporarily until the President is qualified or is chosen. That's under Article 7, Section 7 of our 1986 Constitution.
Okay, what do you mean by temporarily?
The Vice President will act as President while waiting for the declaration of the President-elect or qualification of that President-elect. So
Okay,
hindi as President siya acting. Those are the words used by the Constitution.
And temporarily meaning parang yung papalit po ba pagka na-resolve na yung issue, yung second placer sa candidates for president, is that right? Am I getting it right?
Yes, under existing jurisprudence, the latest jurisprudence is that if the front runner in any electoral contest is disqualified or he did not qualify as a candidate, then his candidacy is void ab initio. So sayang lang yung boto ng mga bumoto sa kanya. Then the next question is, sino ngayon ang may proclaim na leader? Based on the more recent rulings of the Supreme Court, ang sinasabi ng Supreme Court, in that case, the candidate with the second highest number of votes, because nga, walang saysay naman yung kandidatura ng front runner. So it will be hindi yan magkakaroon ng special election.
Okay, Attorney CAYOSA, these cases have been junked by the Comelec. Now, they're brought to the Supreme Court. May nagbago po ba dun sa petition?
Well, as far as I've read what is circulated as a copy of the petition, it's basically the same. So these are questions of law, interpretations of provisions of the Constitution and the various laws cited. So it should be much easier for the Supreme Court to rule on it, because this is not a new issue. This has been discussed. These issues and controversies have been discussed much earlier than the election campaign period. So malamang pinag-iisipan na rin yan ng mga justices. So we hope and we pray that they can quickly rule on the merits of the petition.
All right,
Ang
maraming.
mukhang dinagdag nila recently, if I recall right, is linabas nila yung unpaid taxes, which I think were not included in the original issues.
All right, maraming salamat. Thank you for giving us a rundown and clarifying the whole issue. We'll definitely stay tuned to that. That was Attorney CAYOSA, former IBP president. Attorney Vic Rodriguez confirmed that presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is in Australia today for a private trip with his family. Rodriguez said that the Marcoses are on vacation to enjoy their remaining days as, quote, private citizens. Rodriguez added that Australian Prime Minister Scott John Morrison called Marcos Jr. to congratulate him, but their presence there was met with protests by some Filipinos. Rodriguez described this as an embarrassment. Marcos Jr. and his family will be back in the Philippines on Thursday. These are the other big stories tonight. Can't wait for June 30. Vice President-elect Sara Duterte seeks an earlier inauguration on June 19. Comelec says no problem, but a constitutionalist has misgivings. Meanwhile, the Department of Health has confirmed the local transmission of the contagious Omicron subvariant BA2.12.1. And we run through the list of senatorial candidates who made it to the Magic 12. These big stories after the break.
watching The Big Story. I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Presumptive Vice President Sara Duterte is eyeing an early inauguration date on June 19 instead of June 30.
But does the Philippine Constitution allow this? Marian Enriquez with the story.
Presumptive Vice President-elect Sara Duterte wants her inauguration done on June 19. Traditionally, the incoming president and vice president take their oath on June 30. Duterte says she wants to attend the inauguration of her running mate and incoming President Bongbong Marcos. In 1PH's One Balita Pilipinas, Duterte spokesperson Liloan Mayor Cristina Frasco said the outgoing mayor insisted on doing it in Davao.
To quote her, it is the Davaoeños' patience that made me the public servant I am today, and therefore it is only right to honor them the opportunity to witness the oath-taking.
But can Duterte actually hold an oath-taking ceremony before the standard June 30 date? Center Law Deputy Executive Director Gilbert Andres says this plan may be a violation of the 1987 Constitution. Under Article 7, Section 4, the President and Vice President shall begin their terms at noon of the 30th day of June and shall end on the same time and date 6 years later.
So if it says June 30, it cannot be done June 29, it cannot be done June 19, it cannot be done on July 1. It should be June 30. Why? There's a reason for this. Because there can only be one president.
With this, Andres warns of a possible constitutional crisis.
If someone takes an oath of office for president or vice president in violation of the Constitution, then that person can be challenged through the remedy of quo warranto.
But for Comelec Commissioner George Garcia, an early inauguration isn't a problem.
Two former presidents before took their oath at 11:45, not exactly at 12 o'clock. So meaning to say, pwede naman palang mas maaga. Basta ang usapan lang, mag-a-assume at exactly 12:01 because that is what is provided for by the Constitution.
Garcia said that as long as the candidates have been proclaimed, oath-taking is merely as a formality. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Comelec has released a list of the senators who made it to the Magic 12. Winning senatorials include, of course, Robin Padilla, Loren Legarda, Rafi Tulfo, Win Gatchalian, Cheese Escudero, and Mark Villar. Also forming the Magic 12 are Alan Pita Cayetano, Mig Zubiri, Joel Villanueva, JV Ercito, Risa Ontiveros, and Jinggoy Estrada. The poll body is set to proclaim the senatorial candidates on Wednesday. The Comelec has resolved to proceed with the proclamation despite the pending special elections in Lanao del Sur.
Meanwhile, it's the first day on board for these pets after MRT3 allowed cats and dogs on the train. Mon Guaves shares with us the experience of some fur parents. Let's watch this.
After finding out that their fur babies can now be allowed inside the MRT Line 3, Carmi and other fur parents were excited to ride the MRT to bring their 4 dogs to the vet. But the excitement soon died.
Yung pong isang puta, isang cage, pero pagkabuhat-buhat, hindi siya pwede.
Security personnel told them that their pets should be in separate and closed pet carriers sized 2 feet by 2 feet.
Yung isa namin kulungan, kasi naman po din yung dalawang maliit na aso eh. Imagine kung mag-isa ka lang po, tapos dalawa yung bit-bit mong kulungan.
According to MRT3, domesticated pets like dogs and cats have been allowed to board the train line since July 2021. They are just reiterating guidelines on hand-carried baggage, including pets.
Of course, animal welfare din naman ang inaano natin. And hindi naman siya dapat mag-cause. So we are reinforcing them and reminding all pet lovers of our rule. We are allowing it, but subject to certain conditions.
Besides the enclosed pet carriers and the one pet, one owner rule, pets also have to be in diapers. They are also not allowed in lead trains or the coach for priority groups like senior citizens and those pregnant or with kids. Owners are also not allowed to feed their pets while on board the train. Owners also need to sign a waiver.
Hindi namin sagot kung sakaling magkaroon ng adverse reaction yung pets niya sa biyahe.
But to lessen the hassle, some pet owners suggest a pet ID similar to identification cards for pets in malls and establishments. Train management said they will look into this option. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, we are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return, with the winning senators now proclaimed, who will sit as Senate President Analysts are saying Senator Cynthia Villar might have the numbers on her side. Meanwhile, with 17 cases, the Department of Health says there's now a local transmission of the highly transmissible Omicron subvariant. And we check on our athletes' performance in the Southeast Asian Games as they haul more medals for the Philippines. These big stories after the break.
Poised to play a crucial role in her supposed bid. Mian Los Baños tells us more.
While the House speakership seems to be Majority Leader Martin Romualdez's for the taking, the battle for the Senate presidency can still be anyone's game. In contention, it seems are Majority Leader Mig Zubiri and Senator Cynthia Villar. But it might just be an uphill battle for Zubiri, said political analyst Dennis Coronacion.
Ang tanong dun is, does he have the numbers? Siguro, kung hindi niya kakalabanin ng isang Cynthia Villar, baka pwede. Kaso kung if he is up against Cynthia Villar, baka hindi niya makuha yung support ng majority.
For Coronacion, Villar can easily muster the 13 votes needed to get the seat, especially with her strong ties to President Duterte and presumptive President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.
Senators who are allied with President Duterte at saka presumptive President Bongbong Marcos to affiliate themselves or attach themselves with Cynthia Villar.
With this, Senators Bongo, Bato de la Rosa, and Francis Tolentino can side with Villar. She can also count on her party mates from Nacionalista, Senators Amy Marcos and Pia Cayetano, and her son, Mark Villar. She could also have possible allies from the Marcos-Sara coalition, while some senators may be part of the swing votes. The seatmates bloc, meanwhile, could be divided since aside from Zubiri, Senator Win Gatchalian will also run for Senate President. But just like Zubiri, Coronacion said that it will be hard for Gatchalian to win the race considering his youth. For Coronacion, Jesus Codero might even have a better chance compared to Zubiri and Gatchalian.
Based also on his experience, and I think also based on his popularity rin kasi I think how many times siya nag-number 1 or nasa top 5 Senate elections. So I think factor din yun eh.
With movements already happening in the incoming upper chamber, it's now wait-and-see mode as to who will corner the most votes to become the next Senate President. Reporting for News 5, Mean Los Baños, we are One News.
The Health Department confirms the local transmission of the more contagious Omicron subvariant BA2.12.1. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Berjeres says the local transmission of the new Omicron subvariant is happening in Metro Manila, Puerto Princesa in Palawan, and Western Visayas. 17 cases of the Omicron subvariant have been detected by local health authorities after 3 more cases were confirmed. The 3 new cases were detected in Western Visayas, 2 local cases, and 1 returning overseas Filipino from the U.S.
For the big story in sports, Team Philippines continues to have a strong outing in the 31st Southeast Asian Games in Vietnam, especially in billiards. A look into some of the winning moments earlier today in my report. History continues to be made in the 31st Southeast Asian Games. This time, Chloe Isdeta bagged the country's first swimming gold this year. The Pinay ruled the 200-meter backstroke event with a time of 2 minutes 18.60 seconds. Meanwhile, Jericho Rivera clinched the bronze in the mountain bike cross-country event. Despite being a newbie in the international scene, Rivera stayed in the pack with more experienced cyclists and clocked in 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 40 seconds. Pinoy sprinter Eric Cray also delivered another gold for the country. He extends SEA Games dominance in the 400-meter hurdles with a time of 50.41 seconds. It's also a sure gold in billiards, with an all-Filipino finals in the men's 9-ball pool singles as reigning U.S. Open champion Carlo Biado and Johan Chua both defeated their Singaporean foes in the semifinals. Q artist RUBILEN AMIT also continues her reign in the women's 9-ball pool singles event. AMIT defeated Singapore's Tan Hui Ming 7-2 in the finals to rule the event. Pinoy pool legend Efren Bata Reyes also secured a bronze in the men's Karom event. With no sign of aging at 67 years old, fans flocked to the arena just to get a glimpse of one of the greatest pool players of all time. Gretchen Ho, we are One News. It's amazing what feats we're achieving in the SEA Games
Was
now.
it Efren Bata?
Oh!
Idol
mo yun?
Well, I just remember him with a bottle of beer and
Balik na siya. Assured na siya of a bronze. Pero bukod doon, si Kaloy Yulo won 5 golds.
Oh, okay, the gymnast.
That's a record for him. And then yung swimming pool natin, nanalo tayo ulit after a long drought. Gilas Pilipinas, kagabi. After ng ating newscast, naglaro sila, nanalo sila against Thailand. Also, our Gilas Women's. And the games will actually be happening until May 23. So don't forget to catch that and support our Philippine athletes. The SEA Games happens every 2 years. So,
what's your medal tally now?
Ano ba medal tally natin ngayon? 34 golds, I believe. 34 golds. Memorize ko yun. 34 na to. Updated na to. 34 gold medals, 36 silver medals, and 45 bronze. So we are third in the tally behind Vietnam and Thailand. Medyo competitive ako nung nandito yung SEA Games, number 1 tayo. Pero usually gano'n naman. Pag host country, sila talaga yung top because they choose the sports.
Yeah. So much gold. Much better than Italiano gold.
Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And get vaccinated, Philippines. On behalf of Robbie Lampay, I'm Ed Lingao.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.